The movie opens with Alex standing over a hill, overseeing the city. In a monologue, we hear him say, "You can't change how it ends, but you sure as hell can change how you get there." We then see Alex returning to his home, and he finds a dead person on his living room floor. Panicked, Alex turns over the guy to find out he looks exactly like him. He also finds an envelope in the guy's hand, and when he opens it, he finds a flash drive and a note saying, "Play me." He opens a flash drive and finds one video on it. He then plays it, and a recording of the guy, who is actually Alex from the future, starts playing. Future Alex says he knows this is weird, but that he will explain everything. We are then taken back to a flash forward to a few months in the future. Alex, a disgraced cryptographer, who is now out of job, is living in his parents' home. One day a woman named Rebecca comes knocking on his door. She tells him she works for a private company called Arist, and explains they work contract jobs for the NSA. Alex's previous job was also for a private company that also worked with NSA, so he thinks she wants to ask him questions about his work, but she tells him she wants to offer him a job. He asks her what the job is, but she first gives him dozens of pages of NDA to sign. She tells him what her company is working for is a secret, so he will need to sign the NDA before she can tell him what the job is. Alex refuses to sign the NDA and says he won't sign anything without knowing what he is getting himself into. So Rebecca gives him a check for a lot of money just for him to sign the NDA. She tells him the matter at hand is very serious and that only a cryptographer like him is able to solve it. Alex, tempted by the money, signs the NDA, and Rebecca reveals to him that a few months ago they have retrieved a U.S. military satellite that the U.S. hasn't sent to space. Alex, confused, asks her how that is possible, and she reveals to him that the satellite was sent from the future. She tells him they have found an encrypted message inside the satellite, and that is why she needs his help. Alex doesn't fully believe her, but she offers him a lot of money, so he agrees to do the job. The next day a car picks him up and he gets sedated and awakens in the secret lab of Arist. Rebecca then takes him to the main room and shows him the recovered satellite. Alex is very impressed by the encryption method and is excited to solve it. Rebecca tells him any resource he needs will be provided for him, but he only asks for alcoholic drinks. 5 weeks later, Alex is still working on the encryption. He is stuck on one problem and can't seem to be able to figure it out. He has not left the lab for the entire 5 weeks, so Rebecca offers him a weekend vacation so he can get some fresh air, but Alex refuses. A few days later, while Alex was working on the same problem, he starts hearing a woman's voice behind him. He then sees that woman trying to solve the same program as he is doing. The woman then disappears as he is hallucinating her, but the equation he saw her do actually works. Later that night, while working on his bed, he accidentally drops his pen, and when he leans down to retrieve it, he finds a binary code written on the side of his bed. He translates the binary code to natural language and comes up with the name Beth Carter. Alex figures out he was not the only one that is trying to decrypt the satellite. The woman he has been imagining was Beth, and he has been able to sense her through her equation. After that revelation, Alex figures out the code for the satellite and finds out the message is for a blueprint of a machine. He tells Rebecca of what he found and informs her that the blueprint is for a machine that will stop World War III. Rebecca then orders her men to return Alex to his home, and she orders him to not tell anyone about this and informs him he will be monitored by her. Alex then gets sedated again, and he wakes up in his home. Over the next few days, Alex starts having massive headaches. At first, he thought it was the drug they used on him, but as the days go by, the headache even gets stronger. One day, Alex gets a knock from 2 very pale guys wearing identical suits and a top hat. They ask Alex about his job at Arist, and Alex thinks they are sent from the company, so he invites them in. He tells them he can't tell them about what he did since he is still in the NDA, but they ask him why he did it, which doesn't violate his NDA. He asks them why they want to know that, and they simply tell him they are just curious. He tells them he did it for the money. They then ask him if he would feel responsible for the death that the machine would cause. He asks them what machine, and they reveal to him the blueprint is not for a machine to stop death. Instead, it is created to destroy humanity. Alex then starts having a massive headache, this time much harsher than he had before, so he cuts the conversation short and tells them to leave. His headache then calms down as soon as the 2 men leave his home. After hearing about the death machine, Alex decides to continue working on the encryption. He then sits at his computer and tries to enter the encryption, but his computer suddenly shuts off and he gets a call from Rebecca. She tells him his job is done and warns him if he tries to do this again, he will get in trouble. Alex, angry, then decides to just work on a paper, but they cut off his power too. Pissed off, he goes outside to check what is happening. He then watches as one of the men that talked to him before transforms into a giant. Alex then rushes back to home, but the giant follows him and calls for him outside his bedroom. Alex opens the blind and sees the giant extending his hands, trying to reach out to him. The next morning, Rebecca comes to Alex's home to visit him. She finds his wall plastered with papers full of equation. Alex hasn't slept and has been working on the encryption. He tells her that the blueprint is not from the future humans and that it is from aliens. He tries to explain to her that the machine was sent by the aliens and it was designed to start World War III and not prevent it. She doesn't believe him and tells him that he is seeing things because he has a tumor. It is revealed to be that the headaches Alex has been getting was from a tumor, which he got because he was exposed to the radiation from the satellite. Later that day, Alex decides to contact Beth. He goes to her home. At first, she refuses to talk to him. But when he tells her about the aliens and his tumors, she lets him in. She tells him she only has 2 months left to live, and that the pain and her hallucination are getting stronger. Alex then tries to tell her what she is seeing is real, but she doesn't believe him. She tells him she tried to do the math, but it doesn't reveal any aliens, but it reveals her own death. So she believes the hallucination is her brain trying to cope with her upcoming death. Alex then tells her to look out the window and asks her if she sees an alien, and she does. He then tells her if she was hallucinating, then they both won't be able to see the same alien at the same place. He begs her to help him, so she tells him about a man called Cipherman that has been contacting her through her computer and sending her puzzles every day. Alex then looks at the puzzles and he starts seeing a pattern. He tells her the Cyberman is sending her some kind of encrypted message, but it is not full yet. Alex returns to his home and all his papers have been taken away. He then gets a message from Cipherman, telling him that Beth will be coming to his home, and as he said, Beth knocks on his door. Cipherman has told her to come to Alex after she witnessed a horrifying hallucination. We don't exactly see what she sees, but everything turns to red, and we see the horror on her face as she witnesses the end on the world. Alex and Beth then work all night on a computer virus that could corrupt the server and destroy the blueprints. The next morning, Rebecca comes to Alex's home alone. She is in a hurry and reveals to him that she is working for Cipherman too. She too had the tumor and was working from the inside so she could upload the virus herself, but she has just been found out. So she gives them the address of Cipherman, whose real name is Miles, and tells them to go immediately. We then hear arrest agents coming towards Alex's home. So he and Beth go out the back door and Rebecca stays in and manages to slow down the agents, which gives enough time for Alex and Beth to escape. Arrest agents capture Rebecca and kill her, then burn down Alex's home before leaving. Alex and Beth make it to Miles' home and he invites them in. He tells them he was one of the original scientists and founder of Arist. He then reveals to them that this was not the first satellite that was found by humans. He explains 50 years ago, there was another satellite that also had encryption. Miles decrypted the first message. Then a few days after that, he also started seeing the aliens. He then tried to tell his partners about the machine and the aliens, but no one believed him, and he got fired from his job. He explains the aliens are not actually from this dimension, rather they are an interdimensional being that don't experience linear time. This means they can exist at different places in different times and are not restricted by a defined space like humans. But one thing these aliens can't do is travel from their dimension to ours. So, they sent the first machine which humans built thinking it was for their defense, but it was actually a connector between the two dimensions, and the second machine, if activated, will allow them to fully access our dimension. He tells them for now the aliens can only observe as, just as people watch movie on a TV. We can select any time and watch, but we can't go in the TV and change the outcome of the movie. But if the second machine is active, it will let the aliens enter this dimension and affect it, which will cause a rift in the linear time and destroy it. He then tells them the reason they have developed the tumor is not from any kind of radiation, but it is from the encryption itself. He tells them when they solved the encryption, it changed their perception of reality so much that it created the tumor. Humans are not supposed to be able to see the aliens. Our minds can't comprehend what it sees and can never understand it. He reveals to them that even the image of the aliens we see is not their true image. We are only imagining them as humans because that is what our brain can come up with. Miles also has a tumor, but since he only decrypted his tumor was non-fatal, He then tells them the aliens are getting stronger as the machine is close to finishing. He tells them their only chance to stop is to blow up the server holding the blueprints so it can't be finished. He then gives them the address of the secret lab and Alex and Beth rush out. They reach the secret lab in the morning and get in undetected. They then split up to find the computer and server rooms as they plan to blow them up. We see Alex walking through the facility and he sees a security guard walking in a time loop. He then sees scientists in the lab that are also in a time loop. Meanwhile, Beth finds the computer room. She then tries to walk to the main computer, but as soon as she reaches it, she gets looped back to the door. She then takes out her bomb, activates the timer, and sends it to the computer, but this time she gets teleported to the computer, and now she can't leave. At the same time, Alex makes his way to the server room, and he starts running to the servers, but before he can reach it, he gets touched by an alien, and he gets teleported to their dimension. He finds himself tied up in an empty room. The outside is dark and empty, and in front of him is a dark humanoid alien. Alex's brain is hurting as it can't comprehend this dimension, and he is quickly dying. Alex then asks the alien what they want with humans, and the alien responds by saying they were just curious. Alex says all this suffering just because they were curious, and the alien explains they want to understand how humans experience time. In their dimension there is no past or future, everything is now. The aliens are also curious about why nature chose to punish humans by making them live in a linear time dimension, where humanity is doomed to repeat every mistake. The alien then asks if Alex went back in time before he encountered the satellite. Would he change his action? Alex then says yes and says he will do everything he can to stop them. The alien then responds by saying that wouldn't change the outcome, since even his knowledge of the aliens will affect his perception of reality. Alex then wakes up back at his home, but this time he is back in time. A time before he joined the company, he decides to record himself and explains everything that is going to happen. He tells himself to first go to Beth and stop her from joining Arist. He then tells him to not join Arist, and then tells him to forget everything and just live his life. He reveals that the machine is already built and that there is nothing he can change. He then says you can't change how it ends, but you sure as hell can change how to get there. In the last scene, we see Alex standing over the hill watching over the city, just as it was when the movie began. And with that, the movie ends.